Welcome, welcome, welcome to episode 328 of the show with no name. I'm your humble host, Nick, and in today's episode, we're going to be revisiting this little old abandoned farmhouse out in the middle of nowhere in Washington State. This house was one of my original episodes on this YouTube channel, and I called it Halfway House because half of it has completely fallen to the ground, as you can see. And unfortunately, this will probably be the last time that I visit this farmhouse just because of the condition that it's in. So this is a goodbye halfway house episode. Let's get into this. It was kind of a pain to get to this house, as you can see, because everything's overgrown because people haven't been around here for a while, unless it's a farmer driving around it on his wheat field. This house doesn't get much attention from anybody anymore. And as you can see, it is in a very bad state, which is why I'm going to retire it today in this episode. This is an unfortunate scene that I think is going to be reoccurring more and more as I document these farmhouses out in Washington State, because so many of them are completely falling apart, and I know it all starts with the roof. And this roof is no different than many of the other houses that I've retired, seeing that there are no more shingles on it. So every year that Washington State gets hit with snow, it just damages the inside of the houses more and more. This is also one of those houses that they used lath and plaster on instead of solid boards. As you can see with the walls here, the plaster's falling off because of all of the water damage that's coming from the roof, and it exposes those small pieces of wood that make up all these walls. And that's something I've noticed with these farmhouses. All the houses built during that era where they used that building style seem to be the houses that are in the worst shape out here. This is another house that I was just a little too late to getting to before so much damage was done to it. It reminds me a lot of a previous house that I covered on this YouTube channel that I called Ranch House. Because just like Ranch House, I never really got to see this house at its full potential. I would have liked to come out here and seen what this house looked like before it really started falling apart. Because you can tell by this part of the house that's still standing, at one time this was a really nice house, and I just always marvel at the window placements that they had in these old Washington farmhouses. And I think a lot of it was just to make sure there was enough daylight in the houses to keep everything lit up, because the power grid back then was nothing like it is today. This was a rather large house compared to many of the old farmer pioneer houses that I'm used to walking around in, mainly because there were two separate staircases in this house at one time. And I'd have to go look back at all the houses that I've been to, but I think this is probably the first house that I've been to that had two separate staircases. And I couldn't help but notice the wall of shelves over here and what looks like the second living room in the house back in the day. And that kind of indicates to me that whoever built this house did quite well for themselves for a while out here in this area, because not many people had big bookshelves in their house full of books like it looks like this place did. So I thought that was pretty interesting to me too. It was another first. We're coming upon the second staircase now, which at one time took you upstairs in this house, probably to more bedrooms. This could have easily been a 6-bedroom house at one point in time before everything started falling apart over here. Now this staircase is just kind of the staircase to nowhere. I walked up a couple steps on it, but I wasn't really trying to get any further and test my luck. I don't recommend people venture too far into old houses that are at this stage of deterioration just because it really isn't safe. I'm always kind of paying attention to myself and making sure not to step on nails because there are plenty of nails to step on in a house like this. And I'm always walking around really lightly on my feet and making sure I don't fall through a floor or anything like that. Because as you can see right here in this shot, even this part of the house that seems solid isn't as solid as one might think. The floor is literally uneven at this point and almost ripping in half. So there's a lot of risk that comes into going to old farmhouses like this one in particular. It's just not safe at all. And you really have to be careful because something bad could happen to you if you're not paying attention. Now we're going to be heading up the stairs in the side of the house that's still standing. And surprisingly enough, these stairs were all pretty solid. You could see old plaster that has fallen down from the ceiling, lining up all the stair steps. And that's going to start deteriorating the steps as water seeps through and gets all of that wet. It'll start molding the stair steps and they'll start becoming weak too. And as you can see, this roof has definitely seen better days. There's literally nothing protecting it anymore. It's all just beams and a few boards are up there if you're lucky. And then it's the old lath and plaster that just doesn't hold up to the test of time. This was one of those houses where being upstairs again did not feel like the safest thing. So I was very careful and I got as many little shots as I could for you guys. But this isn't the upstairs that I'm really trying to walk around in too much, as you can see, just because of the extent of the damage to the roof is just unbelievable. And that's why I think this house isn't going to be up much longer, because one or two more snows and this roof's going to buckle. It almost seems like these two beams that we're looking at right now were put here to help stop that from happening at one point, but even they are not going to be able to hold this structure up for much longer. And that's a sure sign to me that it's time to retire an old farmhouse once you no longer feel comfortable. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the videos that I have of this little old farmhouse, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you.